Good evening, everyone, and welcome. My name is Zachary Steele. I am the founder and executive director of Broadleaf Writers, and on behalf of Broadleaf Writers and the board of directors, I would like to welcome you to the latest of our Right Now series. We have a very exciting program tonight where we're going to talk a lot about marketing and promotion, but before we do, a couple of quick ads on behalf of the organization. Our Right Now series is an ongoing series. We do have them throughout the year, and we have another one coming up in July. This one is actually going to be in person at Eagle Eye Books in Decatur, and that one is going to be Saturday, July 8th at 2 p.m. And we're going to have Jeffrey Dale Lofton, author of Red Clay Susie, who's going to be talking about the fictionalized memoir and how to avoid making capital mistakes writing about real life events. It should be an interesting talk, and he's a great writer and a great person, and I hopefully be able to see you guys out there. We'll have some more Right Now programs to add after that one, but the only other program that I want to talk about right now is obviously our annual conference, which we have this September 23rd and 24th at the Decatur Library in Decatur. That's where we started. We're very happy to be back there for 2 days of panels and workshops and one-on-one pitch sessions, mentoring sessions, plenty of opportunities to sit and gab and talk and connect and to be inspired. It's highly recommended to go to a conference if you're a writer, just to make connections and to become part of a writing community. We would obviously love it if you would come to our writing conference and be part of our community. So hopefully we'll see you there. But if you would like any information on our Right Now programs or the conference, you can visit us at broadleafwriters.com. Obviously, we are all over the place on the socials. In fact, the lady who's going to be talking to you today is taking charge of those socials so that I can go focus on other things. I'm very appreciative of it. I'm also very appreciative just to have her do this program tonight. I had the privilege of getting to meet Jessica last year by chance, more or less, a Facebook ad, if I remember correctly, that led you to go to the conference, and very quickly learned that she is a wealth of information on social media, on algorithms, on how to stand out, building a platform and a brand and all this kind of stuff. And I have ceaselessly picked her brain and will continue to do so. And I highly advise that you all do the same. There is a Q&A function at the center of your screen on the bottom that you can add your questions, add them as we go. Should be happy to address those questions throughout the talk. The chat is open. You can talk over there. Please don't put your questions there because they might get overlooked. Just drop them into the Q&A function. But I'm thrilled to hand this over to Jessica. Jessica is not only a marketing mind, but is a writer herself and is a member of the Broadleaf Board of Directors. And I am so happy and can't wait to hear what you have to say. So the floor is yours, my lady.
Thank you, Zach. As we get started, Zach, would you mind sharing the bit.ly link in the chat so that everybody can grab that? That's going to be a worksheet we're going to be using throughout the session. Hey, y'all, thank you for joining us today for Right Now. I'm really excited to put on this marketing session for everybody. Marketing tends to be one of those things that can be easy in theory, but ends up being a lot harder in practice. That's been my experience with after 13 years of working with small businesses, solopreneurs, public speakers, and writers trying to build their audience and get a platform out there. So we will be using that PDF that Zach just shared. You can print it if that's easiest for you. We also have it available as a fillable PDF. You can just do that on your computer or just take some notes on a notepad, whatever works best for you, but we will be referring to it heavily. So please do go grab that so you can follow along with me. And before we get started, I want to just go ahead and get this out of the way. There is no quick and easy solution. I'm so sorry, y'all, and I know no marketing person wants me to say that out loud, but that is the truth of it. There will be no quick and easy way for you to get all the audience you need and make all the sales you need or make all the connections you need. It is a lot of time and a lot of effort. What I'm trying to do today is to try to make sure that your time and effort is used to the best of its ability. Now, what I specialize in is called organic growth. That's a little bit different than, say, paid growth. And the difference really is that with organic growth, it can take a little bit longer, but you typically get higher quality engagement. And a lot of times my clients really didn't have huge marketing budgets, so organic growth was really our only option. So hopefully you've got your workshop work packet in front of you now. Let's go ahead and dive in, because even though this looks like a lot of heavy lifting on the front end, I would like to get you really comfortable with your marketing as we go forward. So the first thing you're going to see on step one is brand identity. Okay, who am I? That sounds really simple, but I want you to really think about this. Are you your pen name? Are you going by a pen name as a writer? Are you going by a middle name? Are you going by a title? These are all things to consider when you start developing your brand identity. And tied into that is, what do I do? I am Jessica, the marketer and coffee enthusiast, for example. So who you are is who you're trying to get your audience to connect with. Because what we see more and more often is that folks are not necessarily buying the thing. They're not necessarily buying the service, the product, the event. They're buying you. They're buying what you're handing them. They're buying the connection to you. So you need to be very clear about who you want to be as you embark on your marketing journey. Your 2 to 3 year goals. So you're going to look at this and think, what does that have to do with my marketing? Everything. It is going to tell you where you're going. So what you want to do in the next 2 to 3 years, are you trying to get a book published? Are you trying to increase your book sales? Are you trying to get invited to speak at events? What is it you want to see yourself doing in the next 2 to 3 years? What I also encourage you to do is think about this as more than just a roadmap. Content is everything. Okay. Your goals can also become content, because goals mean nothing if you don't have a measure to meet them and you don't write them down and somebody isn't holding you accountable. Your audience can help you do that. Okay. D, I want my audience to see me as. So this can be different for different people. I want to be seen as an authority on Victorian history. I want to be seen as an authority on Asian cuisine. I want to be seen as an authority on marine biology. Whatever subject you want to be seen as an authority on. Maybe it's the specific type of books you write. Maybe it's genres you want to delve into. It could be anything. Whatever that is, that's what you want to be seen as. That's who you want your audience to see you as. I want to build an audience so I can. Now, this one's kind of a gimme. There's plenty of people who are like, so I can sell more stuff, sell more tickets, sell more widgets, whatever. It goes beyond that, though. Not only do you want to increase maybe sales of a thing or attendance of a thing, but your audience is more than that for you. I want to build an audience so I can amplify my voice. I want to build an audience so I can test drive these subjects. Maybe there is a topic that you've kind of got buzzing in your head. You're not sure if people are going to react well to it, but your audience can let you know. You can ask them outright, or you can just start throwing the content out there and seeing what sticks. Okay. Believe it or not, that is a legit strategy. So this first part, this brand identity, very simple. It sounds very easy. I really want you to take a few minutes, though, to really process through it, because these easy questions could have much deeper answers for you. And that's going to directly lead us into step 2, your customer profile. Now, the customer profile, you'll notice here, if you look at your packets on page 1 and 2, I actually have 3 customer archetypes set there. I cannot tell you how often I have asked my clients, who is your ideal customer? Who is your ideal audience? And their answer is, oh no, everybody. I mean, that sounds good in theory, but in reality, it's not. In reality, everyone is not your audience. What we really, really want is an in-depth and intimate understanding about who it is you're talking to. Okay, that is going to inform everything else you do for your marketing. And you will see how that affects all of the rest of your marketing when we get to the next section. So for your customer profile, first of all, basic demographics. How old are they? How do they identify? Maybe there is an ethnicity or, any number of other things that you want to make sure that you're narrowing down on. I want you to picture this as an actual person, not just these broad ideas. Be very, very specific. When you think of the person that you want to walk up to you, shake your hand, and buy your book, who is that person? Okay. So after the demographics, I want you to tell me about their occupation. Do they have a job or do they have a full-blown career? Where are they at in their career? Are they entry level? Do they own the business? What do they do? Are they in consulting? Are they also writers? Who is this person? What do they do for a living? And then what do they do for fun? What are their hobbies? Do they enjoy baking? Do they enjoy boating, hiking, traveling? What is it they like to do? Drill down on it even more if you can, if you really have a good, clear idea. Their favorite hobbies are arts and crafts. Specifically, they like quilting. Okay. Location. Is your archetype? Is this just people in the United States? Maybe it's somebody in another country. Maybe it's regional. Maybe it's folks in New England, folks here in the South. Maybe it's even more granular. Maybe it's specifically people in Georgia. Understanding where these people are is also going to come in key later on when we're dealing with the different social media platforms. Okay. They are the type of person that moves turtles out of the road. They are the type of person that goes to, car shows every weekend. They are the type of person that volunteers in their community. What does this person do? They are looking for or need, and this question is very closely related to the next one down, which is they follow, subscribe, buy from me because. Okay, and on its surface, what do they need? What are they looking for? Do they need connection? Do they need escape? Do they need to understand something better? Do they need entertainment? Those are very broad things. And then when you look at why are they subscribing to me? Why are they going to buy my book? Why are they listening to me? Because they enjoy the escapism they get from my fantasy worlds. Because they love the deep dive into Tudor England that I take them on my historic fiction. These are the questions you really need to ask. Why do they want to tune in? Now, you notice, once again, there are 3 customer archetypes. Very rarely will you have just one ideal customer. Often you will have a couple of different ones. You'll have, the first one, definitely who you want to talk to. The second one, probably going to be coming in. And the third one, also high up there. And then after that, folks just kind of start falling into many of the same categories. And the percentage likelihood of them being your audience kind of starts dropping off from there. I would highly, highly, highly recommend you take all the time you need to go through and look at these customer archetypes. Take the time to build them out. There's a few different ways to build them out. So if you aren't sure who your ideal customer is, if you start thinking about, okay, well, I guess my ideal customer, my ideal reader we'll say women between the ages of 30 and 45, but I don't really know what she does. I don't really know anything past that. Now it's time to do a little bit of footwork. If you aren't super sure, you can do this in a number of ways. You can either jump on the social media platform of your choice, find the people that fit kind of the broad demographics that you want to cater to, and start paying attention to what they post. This can be particularly easy on platforms like TikTok because they have what they call an FYP, a For You page. And that's just going to show you people you're not even following half the time. So you're going to get a broad swath of TikTok that way. Now that is keyed by algorithms. We'll talk a little bit more about that later, but Facebook can be a little bit more difficult to do that with because typically when you're scrolling, you're not seeing people you're not already connected to on Facebook. or an ad every fourth post. In those instances, what I would say is I encourage you to look around the folks you know. Who do you know that fits into your archetype? Chances are real good you have somebody that fits one of your archetypes, or maybe they know somebody that fits into your archetype. Ask them. Ask them. You don't even have to say, hey, I'm doing market research. I encourage you to go ahead and tell them that, but you don't have to if you don't want to. You can just say, hey, what are some things you like doing? What catches your attention? What is your favorite thing to do on the weekend? If you could pick one place to travel to, what would it be? Ask them some questions, get to know them more, because that will inform your audience. That will inform who you're talking to, and you'll be able to better understand who these different customer archetypes are. Okay, now comes the meaty part. Okay, we're going to move to step 3 with the platforms. Now you'll notice I left this just as a big space. And the reason I did that is because not everybody is going to use the same platforms. I want you to take a real close look at your customer archetypes. Those customer archetypes are going to tell you which platforms to use. Now, for our purposes, we are going to stick to the big platforms. There are smaller platforms, newer ones like Be Real. They have an interesting platform. They have some interaction going on in there. But right now, it's not necessarily enough to really sink all of your time and attention into. I know that you guys are busy. I know that marketing is probably not your favorite thing. So I want to make sure that we are focusing you on the platforms where you're going to get the most traction. So to that end, I would encourage you to use Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok is still viable, and YouTube. So those are kind of the big ones. Pinterest is another kind of big one. And depending on the kind of information you put out, it can be interesting to use, but I would stick to one of those. Okay. Now, just here's where I'm gonna throw some numbers at you. Take a note of the ones that pique your interest as far as your audience. Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest, and YouTube all actually have very similar demographics. And what you see there is about 80% of the people on those platforms is between the ages of 18 and 34. And 22% of them are between the ages of 18 and 24. So you've got 80% of them all the way up to 34, and then you've got 22% of them up to 24. Now, that differs from TikTok, where that Gen Z block, that younger crowd, makes up about 40% of TikTok. And that's because it got its start kind of being the young kids dance craze thing, right? Totally different platform now. But that's one of the differences. If your demographics skew toward men or women, then you're going to want to pay attention to the fact that, like Twitter, for example, is 70% men. Typically skewing a little bit older, you get mostly millennials and Gen Z, I'm sorry, not Gen Z, Gen X men on Twitter. So of course, there's still some women on there and some younger folks, but we're looking at the majority base here. And then on platforms like Facebook and a lot of the other ones, you do see more women on those platforms, except for YouTube, which also seems to have more men on it. Now, unfortunately, the data that they give us is all very binary as far as identification goes when we start looking up those percentages and the statistics. So do with that information what you will. If your audience doesn't neatly fit into either one of those, you don't have to pay attention to that particular piece of information. Unfortunately, I don't have great reliable statistics for any other gender identity on the social media platforms. What I will say is TikTok tends to be more LGBTQ friendly as far as the audience goes, if that's your target audience. Okay. Something to keep in mind with ads. So I want to talk just a little bit about ads here, because an interesting phenomenon. So for example, on Facebook, only about 28% of their total users even pay attention to those ads, which is interesting when you think about the fact that literally every fourth post you look at is an ad for something. But while the seen rate may be high because of people just doom scrolling, it doesn't mean that they've actually seen it, right? Interestingly enough, about 28% of their billions will look at those ads, interact with those ads, possibly even click on them and go forward. Having said that, if you use paid ads, you have to make sure that you're really drilling down on who sees those ads. So when you click on Facebook to have a paid ad, there will be a section there where then you can say, I want to specifically target these kind of people in this area. And you can even drill down on what their interests are. Even if it's not directly related to what you are selling, perhaps if it's adjacent, or if you know a person with this hobby will typically be your reader, that's the kind of information you would want to use to narrow down who sees those ads so you get the most bang for your buck. And I'm going to give you an example as to why that's important. I have recently been looking around for somebody to help me clear some of our land. We have very wooded land, and there's an area that I need some trees trimmed and, just need some work done. Of course, when you look anything up now, the algorithms go, she looked up tree services. Quick, bombard her with all of the tree service ads. Okay, that's great. I saw an ad come up, looked interesting. I clicked on it, looked at all the comments, folks who had actually used them had chimed in. It sounded really promising. It sounded like they were great to work with, fair prices, quick work, layout. So I went to dive a little further and contact them, only to realize that they were 300 miles away from me. So of course they didn't service my area. They're not going to drive 300 miles to cut down my tree. So I guess they would if I paid them enough, but that bill. But I did click on that ad, which means I used part of their advertising fund. And I can't imagine I was the only one that did. So ultimately, there's no telling how much of their advertising budget got wasted. So always, always, always make sure you go in closely matching your ad choices with your customer archetype, okay? Now, if you are not using the ads so much, maybe it's a budgetary thing, maybe it's a preference. I don't like using the paid ads. You have an option of doing it organically, and this is what I really encourage you to do. It takes a little bit longer, you get a better crowd. The trick with organically growing your audience is understanding how the algorithms work. So the algorithms is all based on your interaction. It's a strange combination of what you click on, what you like, what you comment, and who clicks on, likes, and comments on your stuff, and stuff like you. It's this weird, spidery, crazy thing that all directs people back to you. Now, having said that, the algorithm, even to people who have been doing marketing for as long as I have or longer, can be mystifying because all of these social media platforms have a slightly different way they have their algorithm keyed. None of them tell you how it works or when they change it. You'll just all of a sudden notice that your viewership is down. You're not getting as much interaction. Surprise! That's a little strategic on the platform's part because they're trying to drive you to pay for those ads. They figure it's a carrot and stick. They figure if they give you that carrot of all of this interaction and then all of a sudden they rein it in, they change the algorithm, and they change the game, you're going to be more likely to throw some money at them to get those numbers back up. You can do that if you would like. But what I definitely want to encourage you to do is don't get discouraged by that. The best of the best marketers on this planet encounter those issues all the time, every day. Don't give up if you see a drop in your viewership. It just means the algorithms have shifted a little bit. Keep at it, okay? Engagement really is the number one way to drive your algorithm. Engagement, and I don't mean just that engagement from other people, your engagement counts too. I think TikTok is probably the best of all of the algorithms I've seen as far as keying itself to what you want to see. That means that when you start building your audience, whether it's on TikTok or anywhere else, you want to make sure that you are interacting with people who are your customers. So for example, as a writer, and I see people do this all the time, I see it on every single one of the platforms. As a writer, you're going to go in and probably interact with other writers a lot. And that's great. Definitely keep doing that. But understand that that is going to key the algorithm for writers. If your entire audience really does cater to writers, perfect, you're in, you're good. But chances are good that your audience doesn't just include writers. So be sure that you are actively seeking out and interacting with content from the people in the demographic you want, okay? From the people in the location you want, from the people who have the hobbies and the occupations of your archetypes. You can do this in a number of ways. What I would highly recommend is, especially on Instagram and TikTok, and Twitter to an extent, less so on Facebook, less so on YouTube, but those hashtags people use can help you find things. So take a keyword. If, for example, your customer archetype is the kind of person that gets super excited for pumpkin spice lattes, type in pumpkin spice latte, see what's out there. Take a look at the creators that are putting information out with that, okay? Comment, like their posts. Make sure your comments are at least 4 words. The algorithms prefer that. And interact with those folks. Also, pay attention to the number of followers or interactions they have. Chances are really, really good that when you first look for these things, what you're going to see is the most popular thing. The thing that everybody's already gotten millions of views, you have hundreds of thousands of likes. Your interaction with that post will help your algorithm, but will ultimately be lost. Replying to other comments can help and will help other people find you. But if you sort your results, you can usually go up in the little corner and sort it by most recent. You will be more likely, you will be more likely to see people who aren't necessarily getting the huge views and the huge audience, and they'll be more likely to see you. They will appreciate your interaction. They will then come and interact with your material, thereby boosting. Okay. Now, that's a lot of front end. Once you get the algorithm keyed and understanding who you are and who you're trying to talk to, you will have to do less of that. You won't have to go seek out things to interact with. You won't have to seek out ways to build that algorithm and to get it to understand you. But in the front end, like I said, no quick and easy. On the front end, you are going to have to put in that legwork to get that interaction up. Okay. So what I want to spend the most time on is actually discussing the content itself. So let's go ahead and move down to step 4, making the content. Y'all, and you'll notice the very first blocks here are about making the time, because you've got to make the time. You've got to be consistent. Each one of these platforms wants you on there daily, okay? They get their revenue from your interacting on there. However, each one of the platforms has a slightly different sweet spot for how many posts you can make in a day. For example, Facebook limits you to 5 per day, period. If you share a 6th, that 6th post is not going to get any views. I don't care if you're sharing it on your personal page or a business page. Okay. Also understand that when you're sharing to a business page, you're automatically not going to get as much views or as many views as you will through a personal page. However, the business pages often have other perks, like being able to see your metrics, understanding the reports, and scheduling posts. So if you have a business page, when you post something on there, always be sure to then share it to your personal page as well. Send it to a few of your friends. Ask them to help you boost the signal. Okay. You don't have to do it to every post, but get your friends to help you get those posts start being seen at the very least. It helps. Okay. But you've got to be consistent first. So with Facebook, I said already it's 5 posts. Instagram, 3 to 5. This is also part of that algorithm that changes. With TikTok, it's 3 to 6. With YouTube, it's a little different because of the way they have it set up. It's usually 3 to 5 a week. They like that. Most people can't really pump out that much content on YouTube, but this is what YouTube's ideal is. Now, you'll see here, I do have this planned out so you can block off the time. This is for your planned content. There's a lot of people that don't do planned content. It's just more spontaneous for them. It's when they feel like it, when they get an idea, when they have some time. You're gonna have to be more consistent with that. However, don't think you've got to have it all planned out. You don't have to have everything rigidly decided on ahead of time. Have some planned content and some spontaneous content. Because the fact is, literally everything is content. It just depends on how you want to leverage it. Okay? So right now, I want you to look at this step 4. I will, not I might, not I'll think about, not I'd like to. I will block off 15 to 30 minutes on the following days and times to create content. This is a contract with yourself. This is a promise to yourself to put you and your marketing at the forefront. Put it in your calendar. Okay? I keep my calendar on my phone. It gets blocked off. Nothing else goes in that slot. And I get reminders. That's the great thing about it being on my phone. I get a little reminder. Hey, go do your content. Okay? 15 to 30 minutes, 3 times a week. It's not a lot of time, but it will get you started. Okay? And if you plan your content or you keep some notes, if you get an idea for some content, you maybe have a notes app on your phone or a little notepad you carry around with you. Keep a running list so that when you get to that time for you to create that content, you already have a list of what you're going to do, even if you haven't structured a plan. Okay? And then you notice there is a completely separate section for you to block off to actually post or schedule that content. Now, with each one of these platforms, it's a little bit different. Of course, Facebook/Instagram has Meta, business Meta. So if you have a business page, you can actually schedule your posts ahead of time. I will warn you, what I have noticed is that you can link it so that everything you post to your Facebook and your Instagram, it will post together. It will post at the same time. However, some of your images may not size properly between the 2 platforms. And what I mean by that is it may not quite look right on Instagram, even if it looks right on Facebook. I've noticed if you choose to schedule them separately, if you don't say, hey, go ahead and do both, if you say, all right, put this on Facebook, now also put it on Instagram, you don't typically have those problems. I'm sure they're going to work out those bugs at some point in their business suite, but until they do, just be aware that sometimes that can get a little buggy. However, like TikTok does not have a scheduling feature. If you're on other social media platforms, LinkedIn, some of those, they don't have a scheduling feature. YouTube does. You can use Hootsuite if you are either not using a business page, so you don't have scheduling available, or you would just like for it to be easier if you want it to go directly to your personal account or whatever. I would recommend looking up a service like Hootsuite. There is a little bit of a monthly fee depending on how much you post. That fee can be different. So just explore that. There is a free, I think a 30-day trial on Hootsuite. It's worth checking out to see if it'll make your life easier. Okay. But block off that time to make sure you post or schedule your posts. All right. Because that way you know it's happening. What I can tell you is that typically there are sweet spot times on each one of these platforms. Now for Facebook, Instagram, kind of Twitter, you end up with the best times being Tuesday through Friday at 10 a.m. and then again between 1 p.m. and 5 p.m. and then again between 7 p.m. and 9 p.m. They're kind of just blocks of good time. Saturday, that typically is 1 to 4 p.m. in the afternoon. Sundays and Mondays are hit or miss. You don't get as much traction on those 2 days. Having said that, it can be different on, for example, TikTok. TikTok users tend to be more active in the evenings. The cool thing is now the algorithms worry less about when you post, and they just kind of throw you into the mix, right? Used to, you had to make sure you were right on the right time. That's a great thing that the algorithms have done for us. I still would recommend you trying to post or schedule the post for somewhere around the sweet spot time, because that's when you are most likely to get more interaction, more traffic with it, okay? So now what I want to do is look at the very last page there, the rest of making content. I want to take a look at how we can make people feel like they know you. Like I said before, they're not necessarily buying your event. They're not necessarily buying even your book. They're buying you and all the information that they're being provided with. But understand that while they are buying you and they're tuning in for the experience of being with you, they don't have to have access to everything, okay? A casual look through my social media, you probably would never know that I've been married for 20 years and I have a teenage kid. That's because they don't want to be on social media, and I respect that for them, and I ask their permission before I post anything with them in it. You don't have to give people complete access to you. You can just give them access to what you want them to understand and know about you. That's part of that brand identity. Once you build your brand identity, that's who you are on social media, okay? And that's all they get to interact with. They get to have as much access to you as you're comfortable with. Now let's take a look at who it is they get access to. First one, so this is where these brainstorming ideas are going to help you come up with content. So what are your hobbies? My hobbies include homesteading and drinking too much coffee. So you will see a lot of that content on all of my social media. And you would be surprised at how many people enjoy looking at my goats or talking about their also caffeine addiction. I like to visit or plan trips too. I like to plan trips to go to the lake. There's a lake nearby. I like going to their trails. I like to visit the woods. Okay. Where do you like to go? What do you like to do? Do you like to go out and about? Do you like to go to the coffee shops? Do you like to go to a city park? Do you like to go to the MARTA station and people watch? What do you like to do? I can show my audience how to. Critically, this does not have to be something you share with your audience, you show your audience how to do well. You could literally have a video where you are stitching together a rag doll and it looks like utter crap, but you're sharing some other information about literally anything else, and people will find that entertaining, okay? You could have a video where you're showing people how to make the best grilled cheese while you're talking about how Victorian England caste system worked, okay? So what can you show your hot audience how to do? There's I can tell you how many creators literally sit and tell a story while they're putting on makeup badly, okay? Clowns wouldn't wear makeup that looks like that. But their story is entertaining, and seeing the silly makeup is entertaining, and people love it, okay? I can show, or I can share information about. Now, if you're somebody who, and I know I've referenced this a bit, if you're somebody who likes to write about historic fiction, then you will be able to share uniquely information about that time period, that location. You can do comparisons. This is what it was like during the time period that my book takes place. This is what it is like today. Okay. Whatever information that you may be privy to. Now, there's information I share about homesteading, or For example, I have made goat cheese, and I have shared that information and how to do it, or how to, interactions with the goats or anything like that. People who have zero interest in ever actually being around a goat still find that interesting. Okay. So this is information that you know a lot about, you're passionate about. That's the key here. What gets you excited? Because if you're excited, that's going to come through and your audience is going to connect with that. My books include characters or situations that are. Okay. Maybe these are situations that involve family drama or some kind of childhood trauma. Maybe it's somebody that has an invisible illness. Maybe it's somebody who is a super genius. Maybe it's a situation where somebody's in bankruptcy. These are all things and information that you can share that maybe you know a lot about, because either it's something you've experienced, you've incorporated into your book, or you've done a lot of research on, so you understand it really well. And the fact that it's happening in your books is even better, because then you can tie it back to, hey, you have all of this content around this particular topic. Also, hey, here's my book. Check it out. You'll like it. My books are set in the following locations. Southern Gothic. Maybe your book is set in North Carolina. Fantasy realms, those can be a little harder, but they're still doable. If you have a location that you've come up with all on your own and you've built the whole thing out all on your own, you actually have the most information to share. You have an opportunity to do a whole other level of world building that doesn't even take place in your book. So that when your readers get into your book, they have already got a little bit of an idea. You've sprinkled it. You don't have to give them any critical information. You don't have to give away any plot points, but you can still get them excited about this new and different setting that you have completely created all on your own. Okay. I can share the following quotes or excerpts from my work. Okay. These are things that you really like, you really resonated with you, that you wrote in there. And make sure you let people know where that work is. Maybe it's in some short stories you wrote. It's in a book that you have coming out. It's in some poetry that you have. If it's nothing that is going to be published out and about, put it in your blog. While we are focused on social media in this particular session, I do highly encourage you to have a website, have a blog. Anything that you don't have in a published format, you can still put on that blog and then still parse it out content. I can share the following quotes or excerpts from others' work, and make sure you give them credit where credit is due. Inspiration for you. Maybe there is a favorite author you have. Maybe you picked up a book or even watched a documentary, maybe, and you got some amazing little tidbit out of there. Share that. Other folks will appreciate you sharing that information, spreading that word, getting them excited the same way you got excited for it. Now, I'm going to give you some content ideas. And I really, really, really want to take a look at the Q&A and make sure that we answer all your questions. Before I get down into the content ideas, let me go ahead and address the one that was in here. They said, with the recent changes on Twitter, I found that I'm basically shouting into the wind without that blue check. How do I increase my presence without getting that check? What I can tell you is that a lot of times folks are kind of laughing at the blue check anyway. It's not necessarily getting the traction. That blue check is just, once again, like the paid advertisement on Facebook or anything else. It just makes Twitter put you further up in the algorithms because you've paid them to do so. Every single bit of your marketing, especially for a little while, can feel like you're shouting into the void. And as I said earlier too, if they change the algorithms, they never tell you when they're going to do that. Suddenly it feels like you're shouting into the void again. Continue to create content. Continue to make sure that you're doing it consistently. Use your hashtags. And critically, those hashtags are more than just, think of them as search terms. Think of them as ways to connect with other people. Also, keep in mind other things you may be doing. So if you go to a location, whether that be a park you go to, a state you go to, a city, maybe it's a specific bookshop. If you go to an indie bookshop or something like that, tag that location in your posts because that's going to help your algorithm reach. If you go to a coffee shop and you do any content in a coffee shop, for example, tag that coffee shop. Every time you tag somebody or a business, it immediately takes that post and shoves it over to all of the people that follow, all the people that interact with that business and that person. Also, then that business or person will interact with that post and boost it again. So what I would say is if you don't want to do the paid advertising or the paid blue check mark or whatever paid thing on whatever platform you're using, heavily leverage your hashtags and your tags. Tag those people, tag those locations, because that will really, really help boost that. Okay. Unfortunately, I can tell you after 13 years of experience and interacting with a lot of my fellow colleagues in the marketing world, we very, very often feel like we're shouting into the void. You are not alone. You're in great company. Keep at it. Okay. So as far as content ideas, many of y'all are probably sitting there thinking, this sounds super great, but I don't want my face in photos and videos. I don't like it. Completely understand. I've been there too. I really, really, really would encourage you to step outside your comfort zone. But until you're ready to do that, you don't have to. You can have other things be the subject of your posts. You can have other things be the subject of your videos even. I mentioned grilled cheeses before. You can literally have a video of just you cooking a grilled cheese or a picture of a beautiful grilled cheese on a plate or a not so beautiful grilled cheese on a plate. And then you can have completely unrelated voiceover content or text content on them. That text content could be a quote you like. The voiceover could be, I was making my sandwich the other day, or I was shopping for my cheese the other day, and it made me think about this thing that happens in my book. Okay? Nobody sees anything but your hands or your sandwich. You don't have to show your face if you don't want to. There are other creators who use kind of other things for their brand face. And by other things, I mean, some of them have puppets. Personally, I love puppets. I don't know how you feel about them, but I find them super cute. Some people literally have content that is just their dog. The content itself is not about the dog, but the videos are and the pictures are. And that's fine. People will tune in and they will still enjoy that. Okay. Some ideas. So we talked about localized history and facts of places appearing in your book. Visit those places. Take pictures, take photos. If you just happen to be out and about one day and you look up and you see a tree and the light's hitting it just a certain way and it makes you think of your main character, take a picture. Or do a video, do a selfie video. You can turn and you have the tree behind you and you're like that moment when you feel like the main character in the story. Okay? You can leverage content all the time. Teasers. These are kind of related back to what I just said, short clips about your character, short clips about your main topic. So for example, your book takes place in Egypt around the time of Cleopatra. You can have little bits of what was my main character doing when Cleopatra did this famous thing. You can take an inspiring walk. I mentioned before, walking in the woods. I often film those walks. Sometimes it's just a beautiful walk through the woods set to music. Sometimes I go goblin mode and I'm like, hey, look at this cool moss. Hey, look at this cute frog. People like that varied interaction. It doesn't focus anything to do on what I'm writing, but it brings them into who I am and it's fun for them and it's different. Character crafting. This one's a lot of fun. So you can do this via randomizer. Maybe you have a list of, we'll say, these are all their personality traits. These are all their personality flaws. You roll a 20-sided die and that's your person. Ask the audience if they think you should change anything. If you have the audience interaction, let's say you go live. If you have those interactions, you can have them help. Hey, should my character have purple hair or black hair? Take in an audience vote. Let people tell you what that character should look like, even if you don't use it in your book. Because actually now you have an opportunity to take that character, write a short story, a one-pager even. Now you have content for your blog, you have content for every single one of your social media platforms, and you have something that your audience has watched you develop. Let's see. Food or activity you like, have researched or found in a book. Let me give you a great example of this. I saw a documentary of Tudor England, and they made paintbrushes with chicken feathers. And then they made paint out of egg yolks and vinegar and water and then some natural dye. So I got excited, and I have chickens. So I went out and gathered a bunch of feathers, and my daughter and I actually made those paintbrushes. It was a lot of fun to do. And it was something that would easily have been able to have been captured on video, or, hey, look at let me tell you right now, they were fun to make. They looked really cool. I'm not a good painter with a good paintbrush, okay? But it was still fun, and it was still something people could relate to, because most people are not, Rembrandts. They will enjoy the process, okay? When you're making your content itself, as we wrap up a little bit, I want to encourage you as far as tools to use, because it's one thing for me to say, hey, make this stuff, and you can take the picture or the video on your phone. But then there's going to be some content you don't necessarily want to make on your phone. Maybe it's kind of meme style content. Maybe it's a graphic for a book launch or an event you're hosting. I would highly encourage you to check out Canva. It's something I use. I've got the professional version because, of course, I use it a lot. It has so many features that you can use. You can actually, just go into the chat box and say, I want to make, I want to do a Facebook post today. Facebook post. And it'll come up with pre-sized posts there. Zach did drop the link to Canva there in chat. They do have a free version as well. It's much more limited, but I would highly encourage you to check that out. As far as for your website, I did mention needing a website or blogs. I use WordPress, but for those of you, maybe you don't want to fool with something that's a little bit more technical. You've got sites like Squarespace. I've had clients that like Squarespace a lot because it was a really easy kind of drag and drop. So those are just some tools you can use to make your life a little easier. And of course, then I had mentioned Hootsuite earlier, for those of you who need some help with scheduling. Now, I know I threw a ton of information at you. I hope you've got some good notes to move forward. If you have any questions or anything like that, please do feel free to reach out to me at any time. I really, really, really want to encourage you guys to build out that audience, because a lot of literary agents and publishers are looking at that now. They're not just buying your manuscript. They're buying an author who has an audience built in. So go ahead and get your marketing under control and going and building, so that when you're ready to promote a book, you've got that audience there, and you can have a literary agent get excited with you to roll that out to your audience. We have just another few minutes. If anybody out there has any additional questions, please go ahead and drop them in the Q&A. I'll be happy to tackle them. But other than that, thank you guys very much for joining us. And I hope that you go forth and make fantastic content.
Thank you, Jessica. That was awesome, and definitely a lot of information. You can just where can people find you, preferably if they have questions for you?
The easiest place to find me is on Facebook. You can just find me under Jessica Bowers if you'd like. You can also reach out to Broadleaf Writers Association if you want to get in touch with me. As Zach said, I reach out to us on our social media platforms. I do monitor those, and I'm the one posting on it. So if you message us there, I will see it, and I'll be happy to pick up the conversation with you from there. Also, for those of you who may be on information overload, this will be archived on YouTube, on the Broadleaf Writers Association YouTube channel, just like all the other Right Now sessions. So you'll be able to rewatch this if you need to kind of reabsorb some stuff.
Yeah, I hope that the edited version of this will be up on our YouTube channel tomorrow. If not, it will probably be Monday. So, but all right. Well, thank you for everything tonight. Thank you for all those who were here to listen to you talk. And as she said, reach out to us on social media. You can always email me at zach@broadleafwriters.com if you have any questions that you want passed along. And do check out our YouTube channel, subscribe so you can get all of this free content. There's 42 episodes of Right Now on there, plus some workshops and some other things. So plenty of free content from authors to agents to everything in between. So check it out. And we hope to see you Saturday, July 8th at Eagle Eye Books for Jeffrey Dale Lofton and the fictionalized memoir. Everybody have a great night, and we will see you next time.
Thanks, everyone.